Thanks, Mary, for giving me this opportunity to talk about digital forensics adversity to opportunities at Cyber JitsuCon. It's been like 11:30 midnight in India here, and I'm pretty excited to deliver the talk about digital forensics and how it is really helpful and its importance in real life scenarios and how it's helpful to investigate many of the use cases. So now let's get started. On January 15, 1974, a family was murdered. Wife, husband, their son and daughter were brutally killed by BTK killer with the motto, bind, torture and kill. This happened in city of Wichita, United States, in the state Kansas. People were afraid to go outside, even sit at home. There was pandemic situation across the state and the city, similar to our current COVID-19 situation. Dear all, now let's see how digital forensics helped in resolving this particular case that has been mystery for 30 plus years. And not only this case, similar to such cases and incidents, how digital forensics will help. Let's see in this session. Myself, I'm Hima. I'm working as a senior manager at OpenText. I started my career as a developer and then played various roles. I have 17 plus years of experience. Then from developer, I moved as senior developer, technical lead, technical architect, and then product owner, product manager, and then now working as a senior engineering manager of OpenText. Prior to OpenText, I worked with Microsoft, Hyderabad, and also Wells Fargo. Forensic Hima is my Twitter ID. Please feel free to follow. Apart from this, out of my passion, I have initiated a CyberUpsy. Because I'm more passionate about security, I lead NCASE digital forensics, e-discovery, and security BU at OpenText. So this CyberUpsy is basically related to cyber security and cyber law and cyber investigations. So if you are interested in moving your career towards that and need any kind of mentorship, I would love to give back to community. Please feel free to reach out to me. And another initiative along with my good friend, we started WISP, Women in Cybersecurity and Privacy. Me and Shailja started this, where we mentor, motivate, and empower women and to get more women into cyber security, especially from rural India. So this has been going well. So if you are interested in getting that mentorship in uplifting the ladder, please feel free to reach out to us. So these are our links for CyberUpsy and WISP. If you are interested, you can join. Okay. So apart from this, I'm also DevOps brand ambassador and also a speaker at TechCare, Microsoft Community Tech Days, Virtual Tech Days, and Women Tech Net Summits, and also Cybersecurity Career Conference, etc. So now coming to our agenda, let me set a context for today's session. In this talk, we are going to learn about what is digital forensics, how do we get started in digital forensics, how digital forensics has evolved over the time, what are the different types of digital forensics and their use cases, how they will be useful in real life, what are the multiple certifications and courses available, and also the career opportunities and next steps. So this talk is intended for beginners and also people who aspire to move their career to digital forensics, and also for the people who wants to start their career in digital forensics, this would be a very good benefit for those people. So what is digital forensics? As the name suggests, right, in the slides, identifying what needs to be investigated, collecting, preserving, extracting the information using legal methodologies, and also analyzing this digital evidence. From the analysis, documenting the evidence and reporting any findings, and also present this evidence in the court of law from a digital device. What do you mean by a digital device here? Any device that has zeros and ones is called digital device. For example, our personal computers, mobiles, desktops, laptops, printers, scanners, biometric devices. So any device that has zeros and ones, you can read magnetic tapes, that's called a digital device, right? So now let's see how it has evolved over the year. From 1847 to 1915, first use of scientific study to head criminal investigation was started. 1982 is where the term computer forensics, that time they are not using digital, they were using computer forensics. So from 1982 to 1911 era, the evolution of the computer forensics started. Francis Galton devised a method for classifying fingerprints that provided useful in forensic science. He is called father of criminology. 1998, expert witness for Windows. The first GUI forensic tool, digital forensic tool, was released. So till then, there was no like a graphical user interface forensic tool to investigate a digital device and provide evidence. They were using command line tools and DOS commands. But 1998, the first forensic tool was released. In 2002, Scientific Working Group on Digital Evidence published the first book about digital forensics called Best Practices for Computer Forensics. The first network-enabled digital forensic is also released in 2002. In 2010, Simpson identified issues facing digital investigations. From 2010 to 2021, it's been a revolution, and now it's been digital forensics is an issue technology, because by 2021, cybercrime damages will cost the world $6 trillion annually. So that gives a lot of demand, a number of opportunities in digital forensics. Digital forensics is nothing but a wing in the cybersecurity. So out of those $6 trillion, digital forensics will play a significant role in investigating cybercrimes. Not only cybercrimes, almost all the crimes can be cracked using a digital device. I'll explain you how and why. Now let's see what are the types of forensics. So now we understood what is a digital forensics, right? So the forensic methodology is same, but depending on the type, how we investigate, the investigation process is same, like extracting, analyzing, reporting, documenting, and presenting, this is same. But how do we do? That defines the type of forensics. For example, let's take a disk forensics. Disk forensics is nothing but identifying, investigating, and creating evidence from computer hard disk, from a disk like computer hard disk, USB, CD, DVD, flash drive, or floppy disk, etc. Coming to network forensics, this related to the series of events in network to discover the source of security attacks for intrusion detection and logging. So, and wireless forensics is a branch of network forensics where to find out unauthorized activities across the network. So we'll be investigating and finding out. So it's a branch of network forensics. Coming to database forensics, it is investigating methodology to read the contents and metadata of the database. Malware forensics is about extracting the information related to virus, worms, to rootkits and Trojan horses in the digital device like mobile or laptop or personal PCs. And email forensics is all about extracting and creating evidence, reporting email hacking, phishing, tracing, and recovery of stolen funds via email, etc. Memory forensics is nothing but related to computer memory, creating a volatile of memory dump using memory forensics. And mobile forensics is all about extracting the information from your mobile, like the gallery pictures, text, SMS, emails sent via mobile, contacts, audio recordings, video recordings, etc. Even WhatsApp messages, Facebook messages. So anything that is recorded, we can extract the information using forensic tools. And even the deleted SMS or deleted text messages, deleted pictures can be extracted. And coming to browser forensics, if we extract the information from web browsers in mobile devices or tablets, notebooks, desktop, etc. So creating evidence from a browser is called browser forensics. So all these forensics plays an important role while investigating a case or a cybercrime case. For example, let me tell you a real life scenario that happened. In 2004, Scott killed his wife Lassie and their unborn son. So when forensic investigators investigated his 5 personal computers, they were able to find an evidence based on his browser search history. So based on this, when his wife was murdered, he was searching for certain keywords and certain words that actually made the turning point for the case. So from there, they were able to crack the case. So browser forensics plays an important role in identifying the actual culprit and also save the victim. Based on the browser history, we can capture the location, time, where that search has happened, etc. And coming to the use cases, right? So where this digital forensics is used in real time, it's used in almost all the domains like corporate employment disputes, at workplace to track the devices, and government agencies, police department, defense and navy, and domestic violence. So due to the current COVID-19 lockdown, we have been hearing a lot of domestic violence against women and a lot of domestic violence cases. So any kind of incident nowadays, 95% involves a digital device, whether it is a mobile or a personal computer or a laptop in some way or the other. So using that, we can actually save the victims and rescue the victims and also find out who is the real culprit and what is their intention behind that. And it's used in police department, navy, government agencies, industrial surveillance, and also IP property theft, right? Somebody who claims that your idea is their idea, we can easily identify and create an evidence based on the email forensics or exchange of emails or based on the data that is collected in the device. And also terroristic attacks, it is used. I'll explain in the next slide how it is used, that use case. And even forgery, bankruptcy, fraud cases, we can easily crack the cases and identify using a digital evidence. Medical investigations, in certain medical institutes, they create fake documents, or they may create fake insurance submissions to claim the money. All these things can be proved using a digital device, which is correct and which is wrong. And regulatory compliance, it is used, law enforcement officers, obviously they'll use it for cracking the cases, and many more scenarios are there. So out of all these scenarios, I have actually put three well-known, already happened. These are real life scenarios that are happened that I have put. So do you know this guy? We all know him, right? Mark Zuckerberg, world multi-millionaire, one of the richest person, who is the CEO for Facebook, who is a founder of Facebook, right? So do we all know his reputation was in stake at one point of time? A New York-based entrepreneur called Paul has filed a lawsuit against Mark, claiming 50% of Facebook ownership, and he has filed a lawsuit for billions of dollars. And Mark's reputation was in stake. But digital forensics helped Mark in coming out clean and his honesty. Do we know how? So when Paul filed the case, forensic investigator took the data from Mark's email inbox and they investigated all the emails since 2003 and found that there are no such evidences of agreements or exchange of emails regarding the ownership. But whereas when they investigated Paul's digital devices, it's clearly proved that Paul has created the fake email conversations, fake digital documents, and fake agreements against Mark. It happened that while Mark is working for Harvard University, Mark is studying in Harvard University, he worked for Paul as for a contract, and Paul paid him $1,000. So he showed those evidences and create fake documents against Mark when Facebook has become famous. So this is the intellectual property right? But digital forensics helped Mark in saving like billions of dollars, right? So just imagine we don't have this digital forensic technology. Mark's reputation would have been in stake until he would have found some evidence out of it, right? So that's the importance of digital forensics. And coming to the second use case, we know this guy, right? World most wanted terrorist who was responsible for the 9/11 attacks, Osama bin Laden. Do we all know digital forensics helped in capturing him and getting that critical information? And when Laden was dead, they actually collected all the information from the disk forensics, from his CD-ROMs, DVDs, whatever they found at the incident, right? So when they collected the information from his personal desktop and personal PC and CD-ROMs, they actually got a lot of critical information which is required, which actually helped in stopping the future attacks. This is a sensitive information, and somebody like forensic analyst will be feeling really pride to work for the world peace and for the nation, right? And this man, I talked about the BTK killer, bind, torture, and kill, the series of murders he did from 1974 to 1991. For 30 plus years, this case has been a mystery. This is a man who has done it. His name is Dennis Rader. So for 10 plus years, he was sending threatening messages how he has been committed these murders and all to media and police in a written messages. So when he sent written messages, there is no clue, and people were not able to, the detectives were not able to identify him. But after 30 plus years, once he has sent digital evidence in a floppy to a TV channel, so they were able to capture. How they were able to capture? So in that floppy disk, when forensic investigator investigated the data, they found a deleted document. So that deleted document, when the investigators read metadata, data of data, the document has the person who created that person name, and also it has a location from where that file is saved. So this has become a turning point in the case, and it is very easy for them from them to find out based on the name and the location where that person is there, how many people are there, and they will have the GPS, and he has to accept the murders he has made. So this is the power of digital forensics. So there are a number of tools available, like paid tools, or there are also open source tools available now. How can we investigate? There are different methodologies for each of the forensic types, which will help us to investigate. So now we understood the importance and influence of the digital forensics and its use cases and multiple types, right? So now why do we need to know this? What is the need for this domain? What are the career opportunities? How will be my future if I move to this domain? So according to payscale.com, the average salary in this domain would be $69,000. This is 2018 survey. So now it's been 2 years. This survey has been done. It might be more than that. And our top 10% would be taking home as more than 1 lakh US dollars. So that's a good amount of money, right? So, and according to the statistics, by 2020, roughly 200 billion connected devices we will be using. So what does this lockdown and corona COVID-19 pandemic taught us? Everything has become digitization. We are all working from home. Even this JITSUCON conference, we are doing virtually. I'm from India and it's been 11:30 p.m. and I'm all connected to you. So we can work from anywhere. This is the power of digitization, right? So that gives us many opportunities in this domain and in this field for future, and for the people who aspire to move to this domain. And we have a good opportunity, as I mentioned in the first slide. By 2021, approximately $6 trillion is expected to be spent globally on cybersecurity. So that gives a lot of opportunities in security, cybersecurity, and also especially in digital forensics. And especially, trust me, there are only 11% people, 11% women in cybersecurity. On that, digital forensics is an issue technology, and very, very rare women are there in this field. That is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help, mentor, and coach to get more women in this technology. And this will be, people perceive this as a complex technology, but if you have passion, you will enjoy the pain also, and you will actually enjoy the investigations and the curiosity, right? And according to market forecast, by 2022, the digital forensic domain is expected to grow $9.68 billion as opposed to $4.62 billion in 2017. So looking at all these statistics, we can actually picturize and mind map that digital forensics is a good domain and it's emerging technology. You will have a number of career opportunities in that. So Hima, okay, we understood the need. How do I get started? So digital forensics is all about investigating the data and knowing what would have happened and creating evidence out of it, right? So in order to understand the data and work with data, you need to know how the data travels. For that, you need to know open system interconnection model, OSI layer model, which we all studied as part of our bachelor's or master's degree. And to get started, start with forensicfocus.com, which is a good site where it has audio tutorials, video tutorials, and also good articles from beginners to advanced. And also it has number of tools, the forensic tools available. And I'm not recommending any tool, but you can start with your own interest, right? There are paid tools and there are also open source tools. And we have a digital forensic group, which is international group with a nominal membership, but it's worth joining that group if you are interested. Then what are the skills required, right? So we have to be self-critical and assess ourselves. Am I be good fit in this field? Yes or no? So first thing is we need to understand basic understanding of networks. Yes, it's mandatory. And we need to understand the depth of the operating systems and hardware, because you will be investigating the digital device and also the disk, ROM, and hard disk, including the volume shadow copies and all that. So it's very important to understand how the operating system works, networks, and hardware. And you should have a good technical aptitude, knowledge of digital device, and analytical skills, because you will have terabytes of data. It's not easy to create an evidence out of it. So you will have that aptitude and analytical skills to analyze the data and interpret and come to a conclusion based on the data. So we can't cheat the data, right? So, and again, you should not be biased towards anyone. Here, it's all based on the evidence and recorded evidence and the data, right? So investigation. So maintaining that investigation credibility as confidential for each case, and each case is unique, is very important, else the disciplinary actions would be taken. And degrees of forensics, certificates of forensics have huge demand, and they are a bit expensive, but you will get fruits out of it also, the same, the time and amount of money you invested, right? So, and very few skilled people are there in industry, and I repeat again, very few skilled women are there in industry. So if you want to move to security and start the career, I would recommend, if you are interested in cyber law investigations, and curious to know what would have happened, then this would be a good domain to start with, to maintain. And we have to maintain credibility and integrity, that is must. And some people approaches me for mentorship and ask me, Hima, I don't have a programming knowledge, and that is not my cup of tea. So will this domain suits for me? Having a programming knowledge would definitely be an added advantage, because if you are using any tool like Odopsy or Encase, if you if you want to create your own customizable plugin or extension to investigate your case, then a programming knowledge would be an added advantage. Otherwise, it is not a mandatory skill, and this forensic analyst need not be a programmer, and it's not required also. So basically, what I would say is you should have passion for the domain and interest as a forensic analyst. If you have a passion, you take pain and you enjoy that complexity also. So normally this digital forensics and digital investigation, I don't know, somehow it is perceived as not a women's thing, kind of male dominated field, but trust me, it will be very interesting field, and we need more women in this field. And coming to the career opportunities, right? So if you look at my first definition slide, let's go there. So we have identification, collection, analyze, documentation, presentation, like various stages, right? So every stage has number of career opportunities to create, right? So like a cyber forensic analyst to analyze the data, forensic examiner to examine the data from a digital device, security consultant, mobile, from if you are good at mobile devices, then you can take a career as mobile forensic experts to investigate mobile forensics. So you will have a separate tool for mobile as a mobile investigator or CRI mobile tool, and also cybercrime investigator, cryptanalyst, cryptographer, disaster recovery expert, forensic instructor, and you can be a good trainer for any of these tools. If you are good at speaking and passionate about speaking, you can become a good trainer in digital forensics. And for if you can be a good author or journalist as well in this field. So there are a number of opportunities are there. So in this domain, there is no blood. We can be seen. There is no misplacement of things. There is no shoot of bullets. But we will be investigating the case. You will be the heroes in that story, and each case is unique. And every case you investigate that gives a good amount of satisfaction for you, and it's a good learning also. At the same time, who knows, tomorrow you might be the one who is helping the world and your nation from terroristic attacks, or you might be helping some multi-billionaire like Mark Zuckerberg from losing millions of dollars. And also you might be helping a lot of people rescuing from because we have to save the people who are really honest, right? So you might be the one who will be helping them and proving the correct evidence and proving their honesty, right? So this is a good career that we can be honestly and happily take up and feel happy about it. So now we understood career opportunities, right? So you might be wondering, how do we investigate? How do we extract the documents? How do we see the data, and how do we get into conclusion, right? So as I mentioned, there are a number of tools. There are paid tools, and there are also open source tools available. I work for EnCase, so I'll just talk about some of the features that EnCase is providing. We have been gold standards in forensics since 1998. I have mentioned about the expert witness for Windows in the early slides, right? So first graphical user interface tool that is released by EnCase in 1998. And I also talked about the BTK killer story, how forensic tools helped in investigating the 30 plus years mystery, right? So EnCase is the tool that helped in finding out the deleted document, and also the name and the location of the Dennis Rader from the floppy disk. So EnCase is a tool that helped. No other tool was able to capture these details at that time. We have been awarded as C Magazine the best forensic tool since the last 10 years. And we actually, using EnCase, we can secure, scan, capture, and collect and create evidence which is reliable and acquire the evidence. We have artificial intelligence, visual threat intelligence inbuilt, and Apple file system support. Even from Apple systems, we can acquire the data and create the evidence. And we have enhanced agent feature where if we install this EXE in suspect mission, suspect will not be knowing, but we can actually record each and every activity of the suspect, what he is doing in his device. And once he connect to internet, everything can be captured in our device. So we have media analyzer and image analyzer, where if you import a certain data of images and media, it actually, based on the contents, it actually gives the bad videos and good videos. And for like if the person is like a drug addict, or based on the videos, we can actually tell if the person is alcoholic, or based on some patterns, right? So we have a lot of patents in this digital forensics, and we have customer base across all over the world. So this is Project Vic, Tech for Good. So Project Vic is supported by worldwide law enforcement agencies to fight against child exploitation, which is technology used for good. This is an NGO. The motto is, it is victim-centric to leave no victims behind. So usually children and their parents, they may not be knowing about the sexual exploitation that some people are doing for children, right? So using this, NCASE has partnered with Project Vic, where actually Project Vic has a lot of data, and we can actually extract their hash libraries into NCASE Forensic, and NCASE can actually read the data and create a JSON format, and we can also import to Project Vic back. So with this approach, we actually able to identify more victims and also help them to rescue from sexual exploitation. So now we understood the tool. Now, how do I stamp myself as a forensic analyst or a forensic investigator, right? So the certification, obviously, right? So that help you to acquire the knowledge on the tool, acquire knowledge on the domain, and also give you a degree that you are a certified forensic investigator. Because as per the law, we are not authorized to take any of the computers without authorization or excess of the authorization. The second thing is, without the certification or without the proper degrees, we are not authorized to call ourselves as forensic investigator or to support the evidence in court of law. So the certification is must, and every tool has their own certifications. So we have NCE, NCASE certified examiner, certified forensic security responder, and also we have NCASE certified e-discovery practitioner. All these are helpful in understanding the tool, and also how do we investigate and based on the evidence, right, and create evidence out of it. And there is also one more global information assurance certification, which is like advanced certification in digital forensics. So I'm almost done with my talk. I will be happy to take questions. So to summarize, what we understood is digital forensics is a science of preservation, identification, extraction, and documentation of digital device, which can be used in the court of law. And we also discussed about process and evolution of digital forensics. We talked about the different types of digital forensics, like disk forensics, memory forensics, browser forensics, email forensics, etc., and how email forensics plays an important role in Facebook Mark Zuckerberg's case to prove his honesty. And we also talked about various use cases and domains and how it is useful in investigation of crimes and also terroristic attacks, and also medical investigations and browser forensics, how it helps in identifying the cases. And we also talked about how to get started, what are the career opportunities in this field, and the next steps are the certification side. So if you are really interested, please do reach out to me on the certification side. I'll be happy to help to learn more about the forensic tools. And I think we have one more session on digital forensics today, hands-on talk on the tools, how do we use the tools like autopsy and volatility. So I would recommend you to attend that as a next step. Or if in case if you miss that session, I think that is recorded. So you can actually go through that session hands-on. It has evidences also created, so you can download the evidences from the drive and play with that. So as a next step. And then these are the references from where I collected this data. That's it. We are done with the session. I will be happy to take some questions. So if you want to join our initiation for cyber law and cyber investigation, CyberEPSI, please feel free to join in LinkedIn or Facebook. And if you want to join this for women in cybersecurity and privacy, it's mostly concentrated on security and privacy. So you can join in this group. And Forensic HEMA is my Twitter ID, and this is my LinkedIn profile. Please feel free to reach out and do share your feedback. Your feedback will be helpful for me to learn. And thank you all for attending this session. It is also a great learning for me. And thank you, Mary Galloway, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to connect to CyberJet Sukan members. And Navya Gali, I would like to thank her. She has been really supportive and helpful in reaching out and coordinating. Thank you. Thank you all. I would take some questions if you have any.